All right, good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is October 28, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor St. John,
Here.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Here.
Mrs. Miller, Mr. Grumney,
Here.
Mrs. Crawford,
Here.
Mr. Soderman.
Here.
6 present, we have quorum.
All right, this evening we have 3 public hearings. Those are related to 157 South Vernon Street. Also, the second one is Woodland Lake. And the third one is Northport Residential Hotel. And also up for review this evening, we have 157 South Vernon Street, Woodland Lake, Northport Residential Hotel, Commercial Industrial Addition for Ohashi USA, and a preliminary presentation for Kiwi Clubhouse. So our first item on the agenda is to open up a public hearing, a conditional use application for 157 South Vernon Street, Conan Cameron. With that said, the anticipated process is the applicant presentation, staff report, public comment, and then the commission questions and comments. With that said, I'll hand it to our legal counsel, Mr. Vic Whitney, to lay out some of the foundational ground rules we'll be working under. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Vic Whitney. I am legal counsel to the Zoning Commission here this evening. As the mayor indicated, we do have 3 items on the agenda tonight, which are subject for public hearing. The first of which is conditional use application concerning 157 South Vernon Street in Sunbury here. The purpose of the hearing is to provide the commission with the opportunity to hear information relevant to that conditional use application. The scope of the hearing set forth in the zoning ordinance, and it is essentially limited to whether the application complies with the standards of an auto service station as set forth in the zoning ordinance, whether it complies with the general standards of conditional uses as is set forth in the zoning ordinance, and whether, if approval is to be considered, whether it should be made conditioned upon any safeguards or other conditions as in the discretion of the zoning commission. So if at the time when anyone wishes to provide testimony or information relevant to this application, we do ask that it remains limited to that scope of the hearing. Any matters that are brought up that are outside of the scope are just simply not within the commission's authority to consider, and they will essentially be disregarded. As you can see, we do have a stenographer here who is making a record of these proceedings, each of the public hearings that we have tonight. So when the mayor takes it over here in a minute on this 157 South Vernon Street application, he will ask the applicant, and then later any community members that wish to offer comment on the application to approach the lectern, and that is from where you will provide the information. We ask that you speak loudly, audibly, clearly into the microphone. Like I said, this is being recorded by the stenographer, so if it's possible that the commission members may have questions or comments for you if you are offering testimony at the lectern. So just try not to speak over anybody. It's really impossible for the stenographer to take down what 2 people are saying at the same time. So make sure you understand what's being asked of you, and then you can respond to it. We do make sure that we direct all of our comments to the commission and not to any persons in the gallery. With that said, we will need to swear everybody in. So with respect to just this first hearing, the 157 South Vernon Street application, anyone that anticipates they may want to offer testimony tonight, we will need to have you stand here in a moment. The court reporter will swear you in. This is a public hearing. If you stand and are sworn in, you're not bound to then have to absolutely give testimony. If you choose that you decide you don't want to, that's fine. But in order to provide testimony, you do need to be sworn in. And then when you approach the lectern at the direction of the mayor, initially just tell us who you are. Please state your name and your address so that if there's some reason we need to get a hold of you after tonight's hearing, we'll be able to do so. And with that, anyone that feels they may be wanting to offer any comment or testimony with respect to 157 South Vernon Street, please stand, raise your right hand, and the stenographer will swear you in.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And one last item, Mr. Mayor, before sending it back over to you, I will move to admit the exhibits tonight pertaining to 157 South Vernon Street. Exhibit A is a 7-page document which consists of the application and related documents, the plan and legal descriptions, and the narrative submitted by the applicant. That is marked as Exhibit A. Exhibit B is the memorandum of the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is a 6-page document that was provided to the commission members. And Exhibit C is a 4-page document, which consists of the public notice, the mailing, and the proof of mailing to the affected property owner. So I will move to admit those exhibits into the record.
Great, accept, thank you. All right, the first part of the public hearing will be the applicant presentation. With the applicant, please come to the lectern. Please state your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Tony Cameron. My address is 8331 Beach Ave, Indiana, Ohio.
Would you like to present any material to the Planning and Zoning Commission related to your submittal?
I tried to handle it all in. I'm just living the American dream. I've tried real hard to get to where I'm at now. Folks and owning my property instead of renting my life away. This whole town, it's been focused on the development. So anybody my age or anybody close to my age has no problem seeing any kind of land or building. It's kind of all swallowed up by now, and rent is hard when it's all profit. So you don't take into account that all the money you make each year adds up, and your rent is your profit. So even though you might have made $100,000, $3,500 a month rent, that's $52,000 a year in profit. So I finally was able to achieve that. I work on countless members of this city's cars. A lot of people that live here, they enjoy dealing with me. There's a couple traditional mechanics here. They've been here and they've got good footholds. There's some other mechanics that have had short runs, you know, whether or not they're good, whether or not they're bad, they're hit or miss. All I'm doing, I also provide specialty service, so I'm a little bit different, a little bit bigger. So I do a lot of bigger jobs than most. People's last stop for hope. I got a lot of good reviews. If you look at my reviews, I take families in off the freeways. I take people in all of despair. I give them a guarantee that I can get them back out on the road, and I stay late even instead of going home, and I get their cars done. Again, I've tried to do this for my family. I've got a household of 10, so I've got 8 children in my house and 2 adults. They provide or rely on me to provide for them. I've tried really hard to come here tonight and understand what I'm trying to do is I bought a piece of property. It may not be the best piece of property, but I bought it. I'm trying to use it. I don't know what else I can do. I'm just here to figure that out. I don't really have too much. I know there's some neighbor problems that had existed with the building once upon a time. I'm willing to go in there. I mean, it's a compound already, so noise getting out of it. Noise transfer is already pretty hard because you imagine it travels in a wave. So once you get buildings and a fence, it coming back around and touching down in any way, you know, it gets diminished. So, I mean, I'm willing to plant trees to hide the cars. I'm willing to do facelifts on the buildings, give that whole area a new look. I don't want people to think, hey, it's old. You know, the siding, everything about it's kind of just out of date. I understand the city's growing. I'm willing to grow with the city, provide something more than what's there now. I've got dreams for that. A lot of people that are here have dreams for that same property. and providing for this city, this community, something more. A place where people come together and they enjoy the people that are there, and it's a fun place to go. There's a lot of things going on there eventually, hopefully it's just a nice place to go to. I really don't have too much more. Again, I submitted paperwork showing that I will plant trees to kind of keep cars out of view. I've narrowed down all the cars that I did have there, so it's not a lot anyways. And then I've been cleaning it up. So from what was once, trying to keep it in somewhat better shape. I don't know what all you guys ask of people for owning property, but I imagine I've been doing my best so far, and I'll continue to try to do something more. You just got to help steer me. If you don't like something, let me know, and if you love it, shake my hand, and it's about the best I got.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
We're gonna open it up to staff, then open it up to public comment. We may have questions for you in a moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we have the staff report for review.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So the property in question is currently zoned C2 Commercial District, which does allow for an auto service station as a conditional use, which is exactly why we're here today. The property has commercial to the west, industrial to the south, and then there is a residential parcel directly north of it. The commercial to the west is residential use right now, but it is currently zoned commercial. With this application, there are several things that are non-conforming uses on the property, such as we have setback requirements from commercial districts next to residential. The applicant wouldn't be able to abide by that because they would have to move the building. So there are some of these non-conforming issues, such as front yard depth, side yard requirements, rear yard requirements, that would also need to be approved as well with that, and they're listed in here. Aside from that, the staff does recommend an approval with some staff, or staff recommends approval with some conditions as well, which are listed on page 3 of the staff report. If you guys have any questions or would like me to go through all those, I can, but wanted to make sure if you guys already know those, then we can just roll with them.
Any questions for Mr. Blankenship at this point? Come back to you. Thank you. Yep. All right, we're gonna go ahead and open it up to public comment. Mr. Cameron, you can grab a seat and we'll call you back up here. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to open it up to public comment. Please raise your hand if you've been sworn in and you wish to speak on this particular property and the conditional use application. Come up, please state your name and address.
My name's Jeremy Furr and I live at 101 South Vernon Street. I just kind of want to know a general idea what is going on with the property or what they applied for, since I believe it's in the documents you have, but I didn't get a copy or see the application.
Do you have anything else you want to ask at this point? Or,
Generally,
well, just this part of the hearing is not question and answer, but if you have questions that we should be considering, I'm going to work on getting you a copy of the application in the meantime.
yeah.
Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just would like it to look good down there. So, and I wouldn't mind if my daughter would be able to ride the bus again down our street and instead of having to be picked up at the corner. So that's
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else that was sworn in and would like to speak? Planning and Zoning Commission, please come on up.
Tommy Hatfield, 64 Letts Avenue. I just wanted to state, first of all, I moved into the community about 25 years ago. House I live in abuts all of the commercial industrial property, so I'm not complaining about that. I have no problem. Fuller Oil operates numerous trucks in and out of there every day, all day, a lot of times late into the evening, early in the morning. So that part of that is not a problem for us. All the previous businesses that have been in that building were kind of contained within that building. In the couple of months that this particular business has been there, it's not been contained in the building. I'm unclear as to whether this conditional use includes the parking lot, that originally there was a conditional use that included the parking lot. So my first concern is if that's off the table and you approve this conditional use, and then the parking lot becomes back into the picture, is that just automatically approved as part of this conditional use? I'm personally very skeptical about approving a conditional use on this property. I understand that it has changed hands. I don't know who holds the mortgage on this property, but I know the previous conditional use was approved with conditions, and those conditions were never met. Those conditions were never validated. That property went on like that until it was sold, however it was sold now. So I would want to make sure that if there are things that need to happen, that those are validated, because the village was significantly taken advantage of the last go around. It's been in business, at least at that location, I would say, for probably 2 months. Within that 2 months, there's no parking that I can see for customers. There's at least 9 or 10, maybe 11 cars parked in the grass. It's not a parking lot, never was a parking lot. If it's going to be a parking lot, it would, I'm sure we have zoning rules that say how many, you have a space that's 10 by 30, how many cars can park there. There is a parking space directly on Vernon across from Fuller, but again, that appears to have cars stored there. Most of the cars that are stored there don't appear to be operational, or they're not moved. They've been sitting there for the 2 months they've been there. So that's concerning to me that, there's absolutely no way the current situation that you could actually have a customer parking lot, people pull in. There are cars, I'd be happy if you haven't been down there to go look. There's cars on every inch of every space outside the building possible. So again, I don't know if they're going to park on the Ganem lot or on the trail parking. It's concerning to me about that. And again, normally in a auto body or mechanic shop, you have cars that are dropped off, worked on, picked up. I'm sure that that's happening here, but they're not within the confines of this property. They're either on the lot across the street, in the street, just wherever that takes place. And again, I've never met Mr. Cameron, have no issues with him personally. I just want to, if this were a business that was going to operate there, it needs to have a little bit of structure to it. It needs to have a defined parking area. That parking area needs to be paved. People need to be able to tell there's 3 spots. That's what we expect of every other business. I sat on the zoning board for dozens of years, and we require parking lots to be defined, spaces to be allocated, certain size, and that doesn't take place here. And last but not least, again, I don't know if you know this. I very much support what he said as far as American Dream wanting to build a business. I think that's awesome. But we also have a trailhead there that they're getting ready to spend some money on a new facility there. I would just like it to be something that we can be proud of in our city, and having cars that do not operate piled up around the building, it's not what we're looking for. So if there's a way to remedy that, again, if this business could operate within the confines of, unfortunately, this building sits on the footprint. I didn't build it, I didn't buy it, but that's what it is. So it needs to be able to be contained within the wall. That's what I can see outside of the potential 3 or 4 spots on Vernon Street. If you wanted, I guess, to convert that grass area to a parking lot, if 3 or 4 cars there, but not just driving by tonight, there was 4, 9, probably another 4, somewhere between 15 and 20 cars outside the building, still some in the parking lot that's not part of this business or owned by that property. And That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on behalf of this particular project that's been sworn in? Is there anybody that was not able to be sworn in but wishes to speak from the public related to this project? 157 South Vernon Street. All right, we're going to open it up to commission questions and comments at this point. Any questions for staff or the applicant?
Question for staff, I guess. So it was brought up about previous owner and holding accountable based on current zoning it just makes me hesitant, like, what is our thoughts and our obligation to uphold those going forward? So we don't fall into a situation where we're outside what's been described today.
Yes, so we have looked at the previous conditions the previous conditional use was for an apartment above the commercial use down below on the same property. And they had conditions such as getting inspections done through Delaware County and inspections done through the fire department that were never upheld and not any record that I could find that they were done. I wasn't in here at that time.
I'm still gonna blame you, but that's
yeah,
fine.
That's
No,
fine. Going forward, that's something we do with every business in the city now. And I've personally talked to Conan and I would assure that he would get those done. And if not, then he wouldn't be able to operate. So.
There was a recommendation from staff, an exhibit at least, or a visual. Are we able to pull this up?
Yes.
Question, are we able to determine what the front or side or rear yard is based on this lot?
Based on how I was going with it, since it's on Vernon and Vernon as of now sits that one street parallel to it, I was determining the front as, if you look at the screen, this little patio over here. And then the frontage kind of ringing around this way to where Vernon ends. So then this would technically be the rear yard up here, and then this would be side on this side here.
What would the blue parking area and the purple dumpster be?
So that would be front based on Vernon. It'd be more of a front side, but with how the building is laid out, I consider that whole curve around Vernon Street to be the front there. I think. We can agree on that one.
Fair, yeah.
So one of the conditions, so let's back up a little bit. This is zone C2.
Yes.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use for an auto service station. That's what we've determined is the right classification for his use.
Yes, that's correct.
And he's a mechanic.
Yes.
One of the items, number 7 under conditional uses, auto service station says no outdoor disassembly or repair of motor vehicles shall be permitted. Storage of rental trucks, trailers, or passenger vehicles shall not be permitted in the front yard.
Yes.
But in the staff exhibit, you have parking in what you would call the front yard.
So it depends on our definition, well, 1 of front yard and 2 of parking then. So in the exhibit, the applicant showed it turning into parking, and I'll kind of let Conan touch on that a little bit if he wants to, but that would be designated as parking, more of a lot look if this conditional use gets approved. So that'd be similar to how stores on Cherry Street have parking in the front, how the Kroger has parking in the front, similar along those kind of lines.
Was this exhibit created by the city or by the applicant?
It was turned in by the applicant and then edited by the city. Just to make it clear and put the text on the image.
I have one other question, just based on your knowledge, the blue parking area that's in the front yard, that was grass not too long ago, right?
When I looked,
Gravel.
You want to come up to the microphone?
I said the last I observed it, it was gravel and then grass kind of growing through it. But I'll let Conan speak more on that as well.
Yeah, there's 100% gravel and 304 underneath that grass, and it was dying and growing over. No one ever really cleaned it up, and I kind of went out there and took care of it, mowed it down. Again, it's been there, so everybody can remember that lumber mill being there, that was always parking. The preservation parks where the walking trail was cages with lumber. The Hatfields driveway wouldn't exist, wouldn't have been there. That would all been cellar lumber. So, and I understand there's some things with the street right there, but I do need parking. I moved with, taking a lot of people's cars that, have been out money. They've been waiting to get things fixed. A lot of those cars left. They're not there, got them done. But I had to move shops. I've only been there 2 months. But, I don't think anybody can understand moving an entire, auto mechanic shop. Lifts, bridge boards, mills, tire machines, you name it, and the cars. And still trying to run that same auto mechanic shop at the same time. You know, I might have been over encumbered, but, I got it down to something nice, something decent. Those cars do shuffle in and out of there pretty quick. Some of them big ones out front, like I got a big, K20, it's lifted on super soft. It don't look that bad. It's just sitting there. As far as the look, I can move it inside if it has to. There's also a Jeep on the tires. Again, it don't look that bad. It's not rusted out. There's nothing wrong with it. I can move it into my house. Some of them cars, they may be there, but they shuffle in and out. People do need parking. I plan on paving that. Putting lines up. This is just something I've been dealing with. I only have so much money, only so much time. To be doing that, be, working on the facility in my spare time, but I've gotten a lot done. Waiting room being one of them, worked real hard to get that. I mean, it looks great. Drywall it out, it looks awesome, right? And those little things I will touch on them if you're saying, hey, you like the green? I'll do like a cypress style tree, you know, hey, block the view off there. Do a paved parking lot, pave all that in, make it look real nice, maybe do some flowers on the buildings here and there. Redo the outside with brick eventually, and I leave brick.
I want to be real clear, the things you're mentioning, like you will do, these are going to be added to the record as conditions of an approval if the board approves.
I mean, as far as that, this is just my view, my outlook on what I want it to look like.
Okay.
As of now, this is what I need to stay running. Like I said, I got a household of 10. I do pretty good for 2 months. It is 2 months, but moving things around and getting the building together in 2 months with cars and staying working, it's hard. It's hard for anyone. I think that overall, if everything gets redone, it looks pretty nice. It'll end up looking really good. You know, especially with the green, you know, being like a cyber style tree, if that's a paid parking lot, customers don't really need a place to park. You can call me up, drop your car off, but you're not coming in to hang out and just, you know, be there. I'm not an oil change facility. You bring your car in there, you get your axle rebuilt, or I swap your both. I don't really get oil changes unless you offer that while I'm doing major work. You say, hey, while it's there, please change my oil. But there's not really room for customers just to be parked in that, you know, some walk around or sit in there. The parking spots are just for cars that are getting fixed, you know. And I'll try my hardest to keep them on the inside, but you get tow-ins, breakdowns on the road, or people who schedule things out in the middle of the night, you know, they want to bring their car up there and drop it off. I need a place for them to drop their car off. I need a place that's, you know, available. That's what I have at the moment. Gannon was giving me use of his parking lot. A lot of people complained about that. There was cars in a parking lot. Gannon was nice to me and allowed me to do that. I understand that there were cars in a parking lot. And I stopped that there's literally three cars there. So I went from 10 to 3. So that's a lot. And this is all big work again. It costs a lot of money to get these jobs done. You're talking $6-7 grand a car. It's just people in the economy, right? We're at election time too. The people are holding their money. People are spending, It's just my people are spending a little bit more than this people.
Can I jump in really quick? I want to try to narrow, there's some specific things with this particular property that I think what the zoning commission would most likely like to focus on, given that this is C2, which also has a conditional use for residential. And it's supposed to, I mean, the intent of the district, I'm just going to paraphrase, is that it's supposed to be some sort of commerce center for, that can also have a residential district. I also am aware that, there's industrial around this. So it's a very unique property, but I think if we start with the parking, we may be able to make a little bit of headway.
Okay.
And I think that's where you were starting to, and you were talking about the blue area, which would be in the south end or your front yard. Right now, there's 9 cars or so that are parked there, right? I think we need to start there because Mr. Cameron's saying he needs parking outside of the building. If we can't overcome that hurdle, then that we can go a different direction, I guess is what I'm trying to start with. So maybe we can start there. And in the majority of projects where we get parking requests outside the building, we're looking for number of spaces, materials like paved surface, striped lines, typically like a maximum car limit. In this case,
It's hard because all this is gravel, and even when Hatfields throw parties, people fill that gravel. When the square has operations going on, people fill that gravel. Well, I have gravel, Dunkin' Oil has gravel. They park all their trucks, they have a lot more than I do. And their eyesores worse than my cars. Propane tanks staggered everywhere, all throughout their lot. And gravel. Everyone has gravel. I want to asphalt and I will, for sure. Probably towards the spring. But for right now, through the winter, I mean, it's gonna stay gravel because I don't have a lot of funds just to keep throwing money at. That if it's something that you need done, if you can say, hey, we want it to at least look good while you're parking on it. I'll go out of my way to make sure I can get that done. You give me at least 60 days on that to say, hey, put some lines on asphalt, sure.
so I think maybe we can also start with, there's a paved lot. I think we should start the discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission and just I haven't talked to anybody specifically about this on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I've driven by the property, I've seen the cars. It seems out of place that there's 9 or 12 cars stacked up against the building. I didn't check if there's tags on them or if they're in repair or if they're, I'm not doing a vehicle count. I just know to my eye, when I drive down, it seems out of place. So I think if we're going to talk about a supplemental condition, we need to be talking very specifically about width, depth from the building, and, materials and things like that. And I just want to get others' perspective on this. If you're not familiar with the property, I mean, you can imagine what 9 or 12 cars looks like stacked up against the building, and there's houses next door, or there's, a trail right there. I think Mr. Cameron brought up some good perspective. There's other lots that are, in worse repair. Unfortunately, they're not in front of us for a conditional use application. And I don't mean that as a shot. I mean that we're all eyes open trying to make this work for you. And we've got to wrap our mind around, because a conditional use sticks with you and that property forever until it changes hands or you don't meet one of the conditions.
Well, and I think that being biased, that everything is gravel, and I plan on asphalt, that is a big deal. And if you gave me a timeline on it and said, hey, we're rolling this to see what you can do, if you want to plant some trees and, pave that and do this, it could end up giving you a different view than what you've driven by and seen. But there's not 12 cars there if they're all double. Bumper to bumper, 2 cars. You got 8. Don't look that bad. It could look different because you're not used to seeing it. But I'm trying. I'm not by any means doing it. It's not like they're all monster trucks or, there's muscle cars sitting out there. 70 Monte Carlos, you got your Corvettes and your Camaros. It's sometimes a cool parking lot to drive by and look at. People stop just to take pictures.
I understand.
It's just they funnel in and out. I haven't had enough time with it to say, hey, this is why it looks good or looks bad. If you say, hey, we want to see what you will do. And give me a use based off, hey, this is what he's promised that he will do. Then we can see what it really looks like then. I don't know what else I can do. I'm trying hard on.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
please.
The other two parking lots, are they full? Why can't the cars be moved inside?
Oh, what do you mean? The inside parking lot?
Yeah.
Well, how am I supposed to funnel things around?
I'm asking a question. Are they full? Is every lot full? And that's why you have to use the ones that we're talking about? Could we,
So those are usually pickup and drop offs in the outside lot.
Could we number the parking lots so that I can differentiate, because everyone's describing them different.
Let's go clockwise, starting bottom left. So, parking is 1, parking, clock hand number 10 or 11 is 2, and then up at the top is 3.
So you wanna know why they can't be moved inside?
I'm just asking, because we haven't talked about 2 and 3. The ones people are gonna see from the street, excuse me, are number 1. I'm guessing the line of sight to 2 and 3 is not visible from the street, so nobody's gonna complain about seeing cars in 2 and 3. There are lots 2 and 3 full that you can't, at least maybe every night, so there's no overnight storage in the front lot. Maybe drop-offs are there, but they always get moved to the back 2 lots by the end of the day. People can bring and drop off, but they're relocated. Is that a possibility? Or do you have to have that front, number 1
Or
available for overnight storage?
are you asking me if I can empty that lot 100% every single day?
Yeah, sure. Can you?
I just wouldn't see that as being, it'd be a hardship, wasting my time to do that every day.
Okay. Well, I think it's a hardship for some of the residents and probably people in the community to see them. I'm just asking the question, trying to provide an option, I guess, to you of, can we compromise on just emptying that lot every night? Still use it as a lot. I mean, I read section 7 that the mayor already read as storage of passenger vehicles shall not be permitted in the front yard storage. Storage doesn't mean you can't park there. Storage means you can't store there. Right? Storing to me says overnight. Storing doesn't mean dropping it off at noon, picking it up at 4 o'clock.
Overnight, so if I get your car in, I don't know what you're driving, say you're driving an F-150 pickup truck, say you got a 3.5 non-turbo, say you need, BBT solenoids and some phasers. Well, say I gotta build that quote up, I gotta do the diagnostics to say, hey, I ran a waveform, your motor is out of time, this is the condition it's all in. You got a water pump in there, an oil pump, and you swap it all out at the same time, it's about $7,500. You're saying, hey, thank you for, make sure you build up the quote and then send it to me. I send it to you, you take a couple of days, you say, hey, I talked to my wife, which is something you might have to do, maybe not. Then you're gonna come and say, hey, we've got this much money, or we can't put this on a credit card this time, can you go ahead and order the parts we're gonna do the job? And that's what my days and my weeks look like. So it's, I can get your car in, dropped off in 11, so if I'm knee deep in a transmission that day, I may not get to look at your car till the next day. So if I look at your car the next day, but then I park it, you take 2 days, that's a week right there. So
See, but what Mr. Stotterman's asking though is, I mean, it's more specific than that. In that situation, can those cars that are in question or not done, not picked up, whatever the reason may be?
So you just want the ones that have just been sitting there, they're not getting worked on, those ones pushed inside, but the ones that exchange themselves freely, they can stay, is what you're saying. So anything that's like long term.
I think he's just asking a question.
Yeah.
He's asking the question, can you do where stored cars, like somebody drops off and it's not going to be worked on for a week, that would be considered a stored car. Can that be inside your building?
I don't know why.
Well, I think you're answering the question. You're saying you can't do that.
Well, and the customer may deny, may say, hey, I don't wanna fix it, you can pick it up. Yeah, and I'll leave the keys and they're gonna pick it up.
Is the area inside
Just-
gated? Is that behind a gate? Is that behind a gate? Is that why? They can't access it? I can't.
Yeah, that's a gate. So
Okay.
right here, I got a gate.
Okay,
Right up in here, there's gates. So you can't just walk up in here.
okay.
And if you said, hey, I need my car, or say something happened, you're like, hey, I need my truck today, we gotta move this, even though I know it's broken, how far and how long can I drive? I'll say, hey, this is the risk assessment on how far and how long you can drive. If you're asking a question, if I can move things in every night into that lot, or every week, I can take anything that's been in there, in that lot, which there's probably 3 cars. There's that Jeep, that truck, and I got a Dodge Durango in here, it's mine. I can take those 3, move them inside that lot, every single thing else in that lot shuffles. It shuffles like cars, they just come in and leave, they come in and leave. But it's easier for people to say, hey, can I pay with credit card or everybody? They pay, I approve it, I put the invoice in their glove box, I may put their keys here or there, it's no one's business. And they come pick up their car and they leave.
How many spots are you requesting?
I don't know, I don't know what that measures out to be honest with you, it's pretty big, so if I got 2, 4, 6, 8, I think that's 10, that would be 10.
I'm thinking more like 40 by 25. I'm just going based off parking ordinance and I'm thinking 4 stalls. That would probably not catch my personal eye. If it was 4 up against the building. 20, sorry, go ahead.
Just 4 cars?
I mean, that was me looking at our code, looking at what I would consider like customer traffic in and out. I don't know your business that well, but that was a note I made to myself when I initially saw this application come through. If it was 4 cars pushed up against the building, I think that would be normal customer traffic in and out. But again, I don't know your business. I think you're saying 10 or 12, but I haven't heard anybody else's thoughts on this. I think I'd like to hear anybody else's thoughts on that. Parking spot number 1.
Cameron, the way I'm understanding everything, I think if you were willing to do in your conditional use, that parking lot number 1 be for vehicles that would be there no more than 24 hours. I think that's the biggest issue. Would everybody agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I understand you saying that shuffling them around. I understand you saying customers decide they don't want to have it done, they're going to come pick it up. Is there a way you could accommodate that? I don't know the property 100%, but the gate off of Vernon Street where the main building is that double gated, like on the front and the back of that building?
No, single gate.
Just single gate? Because I was just wondering if, like you knew somebody was coming to pick it up and you weren't going to be there, you could open the street gate and close the yard gate.
Sure, I mean.
I'm just trying to help make a compromise here.
The best compromise I have is if none of those cars are ever the same for more than a week's period of time. Then it's never really that big of a deal because it's just interesting. Honestly, you're not there to see. I'm talking, I've got 1,500 horsepower Camaro sitting. I'm not talking about like your Volkswagen Beetle that's ran down in 2012. I'm talking, the sweetest car you've ever seen pull up in that lot. Lifted trucks, Land Cruisers, you name it. And they come and they go. It's not like, you're making it sound like it could be a Del car, like a junkyard. And it's not a junkyard. And I may have a couple cars that have been there a little bit since I've been there. But what I've gone through since I've been there is a lot. And then all you have is some needs to say, hey, can you get those specific ones out of there? And if those are swapping in and out, I mean, it's just nice to have that parking.
I just don't know how we turn that into a condition that's enforceable. What does that look like? Our zoning officer driving by, once a week, seeing if a car is moved in and out.
I agree with that. And that was one of my conditionals in the staff report was kind of this exact conversation was like if the rotation on the cars up front, because we wouldn't want cars stagnant for that long. But to put a time period on that, I was leaving it up to you guys. And even if we do like a day, how does that process work as well from an enforcement standpoint? Is it just driving around every day and then seeing if it's the same cars is also another point I kind of wanted to bring up with you guys as well.
In like number of spaces, distance from the building, screening, things. I mean, those are how I'm trying to wrap my mind around a condition that we can measure
And I think the rotation's important. I think one thing I'm getting stuck on too, though, I'm thinking 8 to 12 cars, whether they're changed or not, out there in front, visible as you're driving on the street, or the people that live there. That's a lot of cars to have out. So I'm concerned not, I mean, about how long they're out there, but also about how many. I think what you were referring to in the first, like maybe 4 spots versus 8 to 12. That's just a lot to look at. Any being nice vehicles or not, it's still a lot to look at if you're a neighbor or, you know, it's an entry point into the
Well,
town.
Same as Dunkin' Oil. I mean, if you happen to roll by Dunkin' Oil, it's a lot to look at, but their building's also more ran down than mine. It's so ran down, it looks crazy, but, you have to look at my surroundings too. So that street doesn't look very well either. The rest of Vernon's got, you know, cracks and potholes, and it's not the best view you've ever seen. The gravel, the dust gets all over everyone's houses, gets all over everyone's cars that are parked there in the homes. People fly through that gravel right there. They fly up and down that strip. This isn't beautiful. This isn't something that you're just like, hey, we're gonna put a golden statue out here. I'm coming in, I'm gonna put trees, brick pavers. I'm gonna make this thing look sweet.
I'd just like to say that, first of all, I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I'm more concerned with the safety of the street and overflow of vehicles and the path and what's to come in the future. That's what I'm focusing on.
I would say I'm kind of in between. I would like the parking lot with the landscape parking lot number 1 to be paved and marked based on our standards. And so if he, in that parking lot, because we don't know the dimensions and everything, if he can get 6 spots within our code on that, then he can have 6 spots. And I am not concerned with whether he moves them or not. If it's a parking lot, we don't get to determine the length of it in my head. You know, if it's a parking lot, it affects his business if he's not turning him over. Because what we can enforce is we don't want him parking his cars on the street. We don't want them, you know, all over. That's where I'm concerned. If he's cleaned it up and we're mixing historical and current, then if we move forward, the current should be taken care of if we make it a nice parking lot. Because if I have a driveway and I get 6 cars in my driveway, nobody can say anything different.
6 spaces, I haven't been out there. Are you able to horizontally park six cars?
Depending on the way, I would say you could. I don't know it off the top of my head, but just observing as I've driven by it before.
Can you fit 6 cars flush up against that building?
Oh yeah. Flush up against the building, of course, and then you might even be able to do an L and put 2 more. And that's how big that spot is. And then if I did it with trees and brick pavers and had a little step up and, you know, mulch bed, and the trees are all kind of up in the air. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna try to make it look really sweet. Not a place that's not, you know, cool. I want people to want to go there and they're like, look at it.
I've got a concern with the double stacking of cars. I know you're saying you're rotating them, but
This
the
is
ones,
just, you know, I've been here 2 months. I've been trying, I don't know what else I can do.
we're trying to work with you, I guess is what I'm saying. I have a concern, long-term, we're approving a condition permitting double stacking of cars, knowing that the ones in front are less likely to move than the ones out back, right?
Singles, if that's what you want to permit, and then literally, that's there. You know, you've heard people talk about what was there in Games parking lots and what is there now. This stuff's been rolling out of there. And honestly, I just got 2 more leave today. I've got more coming in tomorrow morning. So if I can keep it like that, this will be narrowed down to almost nothing anyways. You're talking, you know, traditionally you'd want 5 or 6 on hand if they're all alternators and starters, and you'd get them done every day. Me, traditionally, I'll take 5 or 6 and hopefully have them all done by Friday. So that's traditionally for me, 5 or 6 a week is pretty good.
And I'm just doing the math in my head based on spaces that we approve with other developments like this. 25 foot off the building would be plenty. A typical parking space is 18 feet. Like if you go to Kroger, 20 is our code. I mean, if we said even 25 foot off the building, you're good with that. So 25 foot to the south would be the furthest that a vehicle would encroach off of your building. I can show you if you want me to show you what I mean here. I just want to. We did like 54 feet. That would be, that's 6. That's 6 spaces.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then I'm talking 25 feet off the building.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Sorry, it's Jan Harris.
Yeah, it's still wide.
So parking area 1. We're talking about a 25 foot depth maximum. And I think now we're to the width. We can either be very prescriptive around saying like striped spaces or no more than this many cars.
Striped
Left or right.
spaces.
Striped spaces, okay. So 6 spaces is 54 feet, I believe. Based on 9 foot width. So we're talking about a 25 by 54 foot lot. 25 being the depth or north to south. 54 feet east to west. Paved, striped.
Including the landscape screening and everything.
Yeah, and let's just focus on parking. So we're very specific here and then we'll get to landscaping. That would be a very specific condition that also he would understand, Mr. Cameron would understand the expectations and would be enforceable on the city's end. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. The paving, Mr. Cameron is saying could occur in the spring. I think we need to be specific about the spring.
Yeah, say some sort of deadline time.
Spring striped by April 30th.
When's the asphalt really start going big, you know?
It's April, May.
Yeah, you can get until April 30th.
April 30th. We're making headway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So.
To add one more specific condition, that would be the only exterior parking on this property.
On it, I have these here.
Those are interior.
There's a parking lot on that side of the property as well, up on the right.
It's like 5 cars or something.
I need advisement from staff.
That is, so
That's a complicated.
yeah. So right now, there are other potential projects that Mr. Cameron has for this site, and those parking spaces were unrelated to this specific conditional use business. So there are spots over there, but they're potentially not related to this business, and I believe he's keeping them separate for the other businesses, if you want to touch more on that.
Trying to think. So is this exhibit, was this admitted as an exhibit, what we're looking at here?
I believe so.
Yes, it's
Okay.
part of exhibit B.
I think we need to verbally talk about parking that's not marked on this particular exhibit B, part of exhibit B. There's a 4th parking area that's not marked right now. It would be on the northeast corner, adjacent to Vernon Street, north of the, that's there,
A, actually, Mayor, I apologize. The second page of exhibit A.
second page of exhibit A. Is that a staircase or a ramp that's south of that? What is it? A deck, okay. So, I don't know the dimensions there, but, what are you requesting there in terms of parking? Because there's nothing permitted right now, so I just,
The old, that's like was there, that's been there over 120 years, I think, with the building.
I believe you. It's not in the C2 code that it's permitted, so that's why we're talking about it now. If you want parking there, can you be specific what you're requesting?
I'll put lines on it with the other one, but I mean, there's only 2 exterior spots on that building part. And that one's always been there for as long as I've known.
What are you specifically requesting? Picture that nobody's ever parked there in forever. Because that's the way we're looking at it right now, that's not parking. So tell us what you're requesting,
I just
please.
had plans for another business in the bottom, like a salon. And, or, you know, next day, right? So, people come up and down.
It's real clear that those businesses don't exist today and you're using it for parking in your existing business, right?
Oh, I park there like once or twice a week, but I don't really use it right now.
Okay. I thought there were cars parked out on that.
On the northeast corner?
Yes,
On that
parking
side?
area 4 that's not marked.
I have not, the last time I drove by it, I did not see cars parked over there in that upper corner. And I haven't historically seen any parked up there, aside from, as Conan said, occasional cars parked there, but I usually see them move by the next time I'm over there. But and I don't believe any of them are related to the other parking spaces.
Okay, Mr. Cameron wants parking there, wants there to continue to be parking there based on the long history, but we need to be specific if we're permitting parking there.
Well, can I clarify, are you asking for parking there now or eventual parking if you were to get this other business going? So is that parking going to be used in your existing business of being a mechanic? Or are you saying eventually that'll be turned into parking for the salon or whatever it might become?
Well, I'm saying like I've had confused people as well, like they don't know which gate because I've been working on getting the waiting room done. They're parked there.
Mhm.
They'll be on their phone, walking that little strip.
Mhm.
I'll put lines on it, but it's not really something I'm focused on. I'm
Mhm.
focused on this gate right here right now.
Mhm.
I'm not really, but that is, he said external parking lot, and that's why I got it up. It's not parking, it is parking that I want to include with that entire property because it was always there. I don't want it to be just like that empty spot or concrete that I can't do anywhere. I don't know if you're determining the final say on if that can ever be used.
I think if there were another business use that didn't meet the code and we were approving additional conditional conditions.
Yeah.
Those would come forward again in the future, but as of right now,
They didn't
there's
meet,
no approved parking right there.
there is not. So if you wanted to follow the same path we've kind of went before with how many parking spots Mr. Cameron would want over there, or if you do intend on striping it, do you have a certain number you're looking for or a number that would? Okay, I think we go off that. We can improve that now or on these conditions, or we can wait and go forward again at the next point. But that wasn't something we were looking at now. But I do think it would be easier, Mr. Cameron, if we did figure something out for that now to get it approved in this conditional use.
Any thoughts from the commission?
I would be interested, could we put having put loading zone, no parking until he's ready to use it as parking, and then he has to come back since it doesn't exist?
We could do that way. Yeah. It's just, Mr. Cameron, would you want to come back to get that parking done? Like, would you want to do another conditional use potentially to have that parking?
I'll probably do that when then it'll get my spring.
Okay.
He's asking for it now. And Mr. Cameron's asking for parking now. And he's asking for 5 spots. Did you say you're gonna stripe that? Stripe it in by April 30th?
Yes, sir.
Same measurements, the 9-foot cross.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the depth a concern there? Mr. Blankenship? Is the depth there a concern given the angle of the roadway?
I don't think so, but we could pull it up on the county auditor and it has a quick measure. We can measure that out. If you want to do that right.
I don't know that that's gonna be accurate.
I've seen cars parked there not touching the roadway. But that's about as much knowledge as I have on that.
Full size pickup truck. We'll fit in there.
Just to zoom out for a second, so we're all aware of what's in front of us. We're still in the public hearing portion of this. The Planning and Zoning Commission is obligated to take action no later than 30 days after the public hearing. Those three options are to approve outright, to approve with supplementary conditions, or to disapprove. There is additional time during the action portion of the agenda that we can nail down conditions. We can also nail down conditions before our next meeting to wrap this up. So if we needed to do more research on this particular item, you know, we can do that in the meantime. We can direct staff to.
I don't think, you've made a very good case, and I don't think that having a little bit more time just to nail down some of the things we talked about tonight is a bad thing. I personally would, in previous applications we've seen from other entities, a little bit more of a solid plan of what this will look like versus just verbally, you know, saying it like, here's where I would put trees, here's where I would put shrubs, and a little bit more visual commitment to that. That we can see what this actually may eventually look like. So I don't know if that's just me, I'm kind of a visual person, but I like to see kind of what the property is going to look like when you get to your dream of what you want it to look like. I know in April, it starts with pavement. But we talked about a lot of things tonight, trees, flowers, just aesthetics, the outside brick and those sort of things. So maybe, and it doesn't have to be go out and get an engineer, but something to kind of show and reflect what it might look like when it's complete.
Yes, sir. I was just thinking that if I was gonna pay for lines,
Mhm.
I'd just get the lines over there as well.
Mhm.
And just trying to, you know, get it both done at the same time.
Mhm.
But it's always been there. I mean, there's a big, it's a showroom there.
Mhm.
I don't know if you go with an annex from when it was open as a lumber facility. But it's, you know, there's stairs right there. And like I said, someone may park there, I can just put lines on it, is what I'm getting at. I'm just trying to get that out of the equation, but it is part of the property. And it is external part because brought it up, and if I could show exactly how many parking based off of dimensions, I will just might as well get it done. That's all I was saying.
So we've got your request for 6 spaces on parking area 1, 5 spaces on parking area 4. And I think we've got the request. Mr. Grumney's request or recommendation was before our next meeting, potentially, unless we take action this evening, is to put together a more depictive image of what that area would look like. So I think we've nailed it on parking. Now, there are other conditions like hours of operation.
Yes, sir.
Hours of operation, we have a recommendation from staff.
Yes, so typical hours of operation for auto mechanics in the city, I believe everything was between 8 and like 5:30. So, and based on our zoning ordinances for industrial and commercial uses, any kind of noise is between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. So the recommendation is as long as it's between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. We think that'd be consistent with what is currently in the city.
Thank you. Let's get to landscape buffering or screening in general. So it looks like we've got landscape screening. We may need to get a little bit more descriptive on the west end of the property, and then there's potentially dumpster screening as well. Is there anything that we're requesting from the applicant specifically?
If they're going to add parking lot 4, which seems to be, then landscape screening needs to be over there a little bit.
On the north side?
Yeah, on the north side.
Okay.
Okay.
it's solid concrete on that side.
Yeah, it is.
I don't understand why a lot of this isn't just grandfathered, I guess. I mean, the gentleman's trying to start a business. I mean, the parking has been there since the beginning of time. As long as it striped currently, I mean, I don't understand what the big holdup with that is. To me, parking is parking, storage is storage. That's why I was trying to hit a compromise on parking number one. But yeah, a lot of it I feel like should just be grandfathered, shouldn't it?
Not based on our zoning code now. All right, you'll get more descriptive potentially before our next meeting on the landscape screening on the west end, and then provide some options potentially on the north side of parking area for options. Thank you. All right, and then are there any other conditions the Planning and Zoning Commission wishes to discuss with the applicant?
Not conditions, but, one of the questions I would have with an automotive is, leftover parts, waste and stuff like that. What's their plan?
That all contained within the building?
Everything's contained in this thing. I have a contact with recycling company, recycles all the residents. I do a good job about recycling all of it, honestly. Try to do as much as possible. And as far as fluids go, everything's stored properly, and it's actually picked up for free by local municipality and not burning. They resell it or they recycle it and turn it back and get it all as well.
Any other comments or questions from the zoning commission? All right, I'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is rezoning plan development, Woodland Lake Investors LLC. The anticipated process is the applicant presentation, staff report, public comment, commission questions and comments. Similar to our first public hearing, I'd ask that Mr. Whitney, our legal counsel, go ahead and enter exhibits and lead the proceeding initially. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, in a moment, we'll have the stenographer swear in anybody who wishes to offer testimony or provide comment on this hearing, which is on Woodland Lake plan rezoning plan development that was set forth by Woodland Lake Investors LLC. Again, you've heard the spiel. I think you're all in before. Just upon being called by the mayor, please come up to the lectern and provide your name, provide your asset or address, and then direct all comments and questions to the mayor that way. So with that, anyone that thinks they might want to give testimony tonight on the second hearing, Woodland Lake Investors LLC, as the applicant, please stand and raise your right hand and we'll ask the stenographer to swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Mr. Mayor, if I will move to admit the exhibits in this hearing. We have marked as Exhibit A, the 7-tab binder that was submitted by the applicant containing the application of the development text and plan and related documents. Marked as Exhibit B is a 10-page document, which is the staff report prepared and submitted to the commission. And Exhibit C is a 3-page document which constitutes public notice, the mailing and proof of mailing to the affected property owners. And I would move to admit the exhibit into the record.
Accept. Thank you. Ready for the applicant presentation? Mr. Wilcox. Hello.
Good evening. Dr. Wilcox with Wilcox.
I'm gonna keep it brief tonight. As you know, we've been here, this will be our third time, here with you this evening, talking about the proposed project. First, did a pretty detailed presentation in August. And as you may recall, last meeting, the September meeting, we came back with, quite a few changes, additional information based on your feedback from the August meeting. And just to recap some of those focus areas that we talked about last meeting, we did a deeper dive into open space, provided some additional exhibits that broke down the open space provided to illustrate that we're exceeding the minimum amount. We talked a lot about connectivity. Even going back to the first meeting, we did provide a supplemental exhibit showing all of the sidewalks and pedestrian paths and connectivity throughout the sub areas, within the sub areas, and along all the public streets. We've also talked a lot about landscaping and trees. The plan for the last meeting came in, we added several hundred trees. I don't remember the exact amount, but that plan is the same one that's included in the packet tonight. We also had a discussion around tree replacements and possibly doing a fee and lieu. In one of the sub areas, sub area A, which you may recall is a single story apartment home sub area, we did a redesign of the amenity area. So if you recall, we added pickleball and we added some outdoor television fire pit area as well as some outdoor fitness area. We also relocated the amenity area sort of around the corner from where it was originally. So I pull into the site, I'll have a nice view and vista of the amenity areas and the wooded areas behind it. We also have worked on architecture in sub area B, which is the 3-story multifamily apartments. If you recall, we started in August with a design that was not well received, not too edgy and modern, and for the record, I agree. So we came back with a newer design that's more current and more of an upscale suburban look, and feel good about where that ended up. And last but not least, we had a good discussion about density. We came with some additional information about the existing allowable zoning in the township, as well as the big investment we need to make in the public infrastructure, building 4 winds, and had a good discussion around density. There were 3 newer comments we heard in the last meeting I wanted to just briefly address tonight. And then I'm also going to have Anthony with Bears Planning and Design address a question that was in the staff report regarding density. One of the things we talked about last meeting was site lighting. And based on the staff report, I think we're in a good place. We have a photometric plan included in the package that illustrates the light from all the buildings and all the carriage lights on the fronts of each building, as well as the light posts we have through the community. So that's in your packet. Our engineer is here tonight if you want to talk more about it. Based on the staff report, it sounds like we should be in a pretty good place there. I did also want to say, and we alluded to it at last meeting, but we do understand that there is still a deficit on the amount of tree replacement. So we have a variance or a divergence, I can't remember which one it is, in the package related to that, but we also are committed to negotiating a fee in lieu arrangement where we would pay money to Sunbury for a number of trees that we simply just can't fit on the site. And the third item that I think the mayor brought up, it was a great question last meeting, was if any of the buildings in sub area A, which are the ranch apartments, or sub area B, which are the 3-story apartments, if any of them will be visible from surrounding areas, and if so, what could we do architecturally to enhance those visible elevations? So we did add in your packet an exhibit which is, I think it's C7. Is that correct? The site has been on site. Yeah, okay. So if you had the opportunity to flip the C7, I can sort of talk you through what we did and what the work. So the little map on the bottom right, that's perfect. So if you remember the site plan, single-story apartment homes, three-story apartment homes. Our planner did an analysis of if you're driving up 71, what is the likelihood of being able to see either the back of a ranch style building or the back of a three-story building? And the, if you actually can pan over a little bit. Thank you. And then if you could scroll up to the, yeah, perfect. So this basically is a sightline exhibit from the closest lane on 71 to what would be the closest ranch building in sub-area A. And it's about 693 feet distance, but really more so than the distance, there's two pretty significant areas of trees. There's the area of trees up by the freeway that have some good height to them that block the view. And then this is the pond on the Goodwin site, which is between us and 71. And then on the Goodwin property, there's additional trees. So whether the ranch building or if you scroll down to the bottom left, there you go. That's the sight line exhibit for the three-story. And we basically concluded based on that info that you really wouldn't be able to see any of the facades from 71. The next thing we looked at is the northern property line. And so the property to our north is NTB. There will be future commercial development there, and we wanted to look at the likelihood of any of our facades being able to be seen from there. And based on the trees in our setback as well as on the NTB, we feel pretty confident that we won't, because of the height of the trees and the height of our buildings. The one area we did look at and agree that there is some visibility is along Four Winds. So the west boundary of the multifamily sub areas, if you remember, we're going to extend Four Winds north and south to our site. And we did identify 5 buildings in the single story neighborhood that will be visible. And so what we propose, and to be specific, it's buildings 1, 2, 5, 15, and 16. We propose doing an upgraded elevation on those buildings with some more features and gables and things and breaking up planes. And we also just suggested 20% masonry. When we've done 20% masonry on a facade, it gives us the ability to do some height, not just a water table, but some height on some faces of the building that creates some nice variety. And quite frankly, it looks really good. The only other thing I wanted to address before we, of course, have any questions, I wanted Anthony to prepare his planning and design to address the density question of the staff report.
Yes, I'm Anthony Moore, 4876 Cemetery Road, Cambridge, with Ferris Planning Design. And regard the staff comment, which reads, there are some inconsistencies regarding the density calculations. It's unclear if the right of way is included in the overall density calculation. For example, the total number of acres in the development text is different than what is shown in the phasing plan, thus resulting in different density calculations. I would advise the commission to ask for clarification in the density calculations, as we could not duplicate the exact Another Chardon State development text. So they were referencing a phasing plan. I would, refer to, exhibit C1 for density and acreage calculations. That's where it's, only in our book up there. And, first section, 81.15.076A. The density is based on gross acreage and would include the, right of way acreage. Exhibit C1 shows the breakdown of density starting from a gross site acreage to the PRD gross acreage to individual sub-area gross acreage. Calculate density from C3, the phasing plan would be inconsistent with gross densities as the exhibit separates out right away from the developed areas. The calculations break down as follows. The gross site is 451 total developed units divided by the total gross acreage of 60.588, which equals a 7.44 units per acre density. The PRD calculation breaks down the same 451 total developed units divided by the 52.3 acres, which includes both sub areas A and B as the PRD equals the 8.62 units per acre density. Sub area A gross acreage is the 211 units divided by the 37.78 acres equals a 5.58 units per acre density. And then sub area B is 240 acres or 240 units divided by the 14.52 acres, which gives us a 16.53 units per acre density. The divergence request that we have from section 81.1507.5 B11 asking for a total density of 8.62 is consistent with the PRD gross acreage density. However, I think we could also look at the overall gross density by how it says reverse gross acreage for the development is 81.150768. That's the 7.44 density. Now, it was our intent to be completely transparent by breaking down all these acreages so that you can see a whole world breakdown of how it is. Happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you, sir. Anything else, Mr. Wilcox?
No, just happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna go to the staff report.
So the applicant is requesting approval for rezoning and the associated development plan. They're seeking to rezone to planned residence district and planned commercial district. They'll have two different multifamily housing units as well as commercial uses. And all of the divergences that they were requested are consistent with the divergences that the Ravines at Meadow Ridge requested and was approved with as well.
Thank you. All right, we're going to open it up to public comment. Anyone that was sworn in and wishes to speak regarding the Woodland Lake rezoning. Come on up, sir.
My name is Tom Moore. I live at 495 South 3 K Road. I live just to the west of the development and to the west of the northern sweat basin pond that the proposing put in. And I first want to say that, I've lived in my house going on 30 years and seen all kinds of developments planned and drawn up and changed and scratched. In fact, a couple of years ago, there was one by Walden Companies that was going to do a similar property with apartments and the wet basins directly behind her house, the same pond. And that space is really welcome to myself and my neighbors. My wife and I drove by one of Mr. Wilcox's properties on 23 just last week. And we think they do a great job of when they present their product, getting it well built out, and it looks nice from 23, as you say, and then we drove through. I mean, that's a new property, so there are things that are working on, but I do have a couple questions about the development with regards to those wet basins, because one of the things that I have dealt with in 30 years is of those 80 acres of field behind me, of all the water drains through my property. And I wanted to know if, from the engineers, I looked at them, I'm not an architect or engineer, but I wanted to know if those wet basins, once they fill up, when they fill up, because I figure they will, do they divert to streams or do they just overflow? Is that a question that the developer can answer, or am I not allowed to ask that?
Oh, you're allowed to ask that.
Okay.
We can take your question down. We'll get a little bit more specificity for you. Did you have any other comments or questions?
I do have another question is about the utility lines. Are they going to be power poles and or cable lines, or are those going to be underground?
We're gonna get an answer on that as well.
The next question is about the lighting, is if it can be. We already have the freeway lights and the lighting from when the trees come off, the leaves come off the trees. We have all of the lights from the freeway exit, and now with all of this development, I won't need a nightlight to get to my bathroom. And I'm wondering if those lights that are on that Four Winds could be downcast instead of just shooting out. That's my last question. And my final question is in regards to the development standards. And it's on page 30 of their development standards. And the request, the setback arrangement of structures, the physical relationship of dwelling units, and the minimum yard space shall be determined in accordance with setback. All dwellings shall have a setback from the right of way of 40 feet. If the right of way of 40 feet, the right of way, the joining street of road is less than 60 feet, no building shall be looked closer than 75 feet to the center line of said road or street. And according to their comments, they said development shall apply. My point is that Middle Drive, that which they're planning to go to 3 Beeson K Road, is it the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, the house or the street? Because what they're proposing is putting a street within that 40 feet of those two dwellings. If you look at the 60-foot property line and 50-foot of roadway, those houses are going to be, the dwellings are going to be 22 to 23 from the right of way. That's, and I mentioned something to that as an ask to maybe bring that up, but I think that should be looked at. There's where that road's being placed right between those two dwellings, and it's less than 40 feet, I believe. So,
Thank you very much, sir. Any other comments from the public? Any questions? We're going to open it up to the Planning and Zoning Commission for comments. I think it's probably appropriate that we start on I think it was Mr. Moore's question. So, I know this site is not fully engineered at this point, but, is there an engineer that's taken a look at the discharge of the basins, and can you speak to that?
Tyler Beckton with County Horn, 7965 on High Street, Wallace. First, thanks, Mayor and Commissioner, for your time this evening. We have looked at the site from a preliminary standpoint when it comes to drainage, and for the neighbor, the drainage standards of the city will be met in while we work through engineering documents with the city engineer. But to answer his question, when it comes to the discharge, the pond to the northwest of Midnight and Four Winds will discharge to the stream that is on the MTV parcel to the north. And the pond to the southwest will outlet to 3Bs and K down to the southwest. So neither will outlet through his property anymore, and that will, all the drainage that goes through his property will be contained within our stormwater system.
Can you paraphrase what you mean by you'll meet the city's requirements? I mean, for folks who aren't engineers, there are laws and requirements around stormwater discharge from basin.
So there are two large requirements: water quality and water quantity. Water quality is a requirement of Ohio EPA, and it's essentially we release a limited amount of water over a certain amount of period of time. The second one is water quantity, which is typically what is the concern, is the amount of water leaving the site, and we will reduce the release rate from the property based on the overall impervious area of the site.
Thank you. Were any of these other questions for you? Utility lines? All underground?
Yeah.
Thank you. Photometrics, back to the stand, sir.
I'll just stay up until west.
The question was related to the lights on Four Winds Drive. I know you put it together a detailed photometrics plan. Thank you. That exhibit is very helpful. I think his question or request, and we agree, is that the lights are downcast and more or less focus on Four Winds Drive and not in his bathroom.
Correct. So for the public streets, the street lights are spaced per the city code. For public streets, they will have a shield and be downcast, which is part of the street light fixture that is required by the city. And as well as there's additional screening provided around those ponds, and especially along the property line that backs up to his property, that will provide screening from the light.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. I think we have, I'm just gonna follow up since it's fresh. The last one, never heard this question asked this way, but I get the general question, and it's about setback requirements from the road. Typically, we're talking about relative to new structures and not existing structures, but I get the question. The question is, can you put a road in between two existing parcels? Do the setback requirements apply? I'm not sure. I need some guidance on that.
And I think that my initial instincts is exactly what you're saying, that it would apply to the new building, new construction, as opposed to the existing. But without specifically researching that, I don't think I'm prepared to comment directly on that this evening. So certainly do that and get back to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mayor, one other thing I want to mention, I appreciate Mr. Moore's comments. We do, part of the challenge with the site is we're required to create a public access connection to an existing public road. And so we really have to do that public road connection, that Midnight Court. But what we asked our designers to do is, from a landscape screening perspective, try to do what we can to create some plantings and privacy along that road. So the neighbors on each side. And if you look at exhibit D1, which is the landscape requirement plan. It doesn't solve the Columbia Road next to the neighbors, but I did just, want to point out that, we are providing for plantings and screenings on both sides of that road. So you'll have road, sidewalk, and then plantings. And I would presume there are going to be some spruces or evergreens. And then we also have quite a bit of plantings and trees around the ponds. So, we're open to how best to mitigate that from a screening standpoint. If we want to allocate more trees to that area or certain types of trees, we're certainly willing to do it for the benefit of the neighbors.
Thank you. Right, I just had one additional question that was brought up, and that is, I'm trying to find the tree analysis and determine the gap. Can someone speak to what gap we're looking to solve for? Saw the number of trees, but you said you're short, so how short?
It's been requested of us to do a complete tree survey. Our original tree survey sampled a minimum amount of areas to estimate a total number of trees. It's been requested that we do complete a full tree survey, which will be underway this week. We'll have people in the field. So we will know every tree that is on the site and be able to determine an accurate count of total trees, total tree inches to be saved or removed at the conclusion of our tree survey and analysis, which should be coming soon. Like I said, people are to be in the field this week.
Great, thank you.
Anthony Moore.
Just to be very specific, I think I hear what you're saying without you saying it. You went out and sampled trees from areas that have trees on your property and extrapolated that.
Yes.
That's okay. That is a known method to formulate how many trees will be impacted. I know this particular site, it doesn't have that many trees in general. And so if you're sampling only areas where trees are and you're not sampling the farm field, you may have an inflated number of trees you need to replace, therefore creating a large gap for you to fill. Is that so? The tree survey wasn't requested by the city, that was requested by Wilcox or somebody on your team, right?
I received the request from Wilcox.
Okay, so just to be real specific again, don't reduce any trees on this if you get some number that is less than the gap you're already covering. Is that fair? All right, thank you. Thank you.
I just have one question, and I don't know if this is, I'm just asking, and the answer is probably no, I'm just asking. So you have a drive already, the Lakeside Court. There's no way to extend the road out off a Lakeside Court and not going between these houses here? Is that not a viable option to reach?
We looked at that.
Yeah.
It's not for a couple of reasons. One, that it eats in a lot to the commercial parcel. There's a lot of environmental wetlands area you would have to step through, so it creates problems there. But probably more importantly than that, the long-term plans for the county for 3Bs and a K are that's not, our understanding is that's not really going to be a thoroughfare road. Sunbury Parkway is going to come from the new interchange, and 3Bs and a K could potentially become a cul-de-sac at the south end. And so looking at that detail and trying to navigate that, it was discouraged pretty early on. I do think we could have probably a construction or temporary access through that southern parcel while we're under construction. So at least we can mitigate construction traffic going between, other than the construction traffic building that road between the two lots. For all the reasons, it really wasn't a feasible option.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
I had one on the photometric plan. Is there no back porch lights?
There are, I don't. First, we'll have to look out communities. The photometric plan is only showing what's on photo cells, it'll be on automatically from dusk till dawn. There are back porch lights, but the resident can control those.
Okay. So when we stated that, about the lights, we don't know how far those might go on to the other properties. I'm looking at just that south line.
In our experience, they're not a bright bulb, it's more kind of your residential back porch light, just lighting up your little patio area. It's a down focus fixture. In our experience, really has not created much light at all.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? All right, I'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Thank you very much. All right, reshuffle. All right, we are on to the next public hearing, the last public hearing. This is the rezoning plan development, Northport Residential Hotel Metro Development. Same process as earlier, and I'm going to hand it to our legal counsel, Mr. Vic Whitten.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Once again, this is the final public hearing on tonight's agenda. It concerns the Northport Residential Hotel with the applicant being Metro Development. So once again, in a moment, anyone who anticipates wanting to offer testimony tonight on this application, if you would please rise and we'll have the stenographer swear you in.
Prior to the swearing in, Mr., would you guys mind stepping outside? Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, upon requested by the mayor to approach the lectern, please provide your name and address on or giving testimony. So, Mayor, I would move to admit exhibits on this hearing. Exhibit A is the binder submittal that was actually provided to the commission at last month's hearings, which we don't have a physical copy of it here tonight, but it is available via the electronic, I believe, for viewing, and we do have the binder with the staff here in Sunbury. It was already submitted, and including the addendum packet, which is 17 pages to that was submitted on October 8th by the applicant, which has the additional changes that they had submitted to that initial application. That's a 17-page document under the Ferris Planning and Design memorandum that was submitted to the zoning office. Exhibit B is a 6-page document, which is the staff report. It was submitted to the commission. And Exhibit C is a 4-page document, and once again is the public notice and the proof of mailing to the affected property owners. So I would move to admit those exhibits into the record.
Accept. Thank you. We'll invite the applicant up to the lectern to present. Thank you. Benefit of anyone watching online or listening. In the future, the applicant is handing out presentation materials.
Self-explanatory.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Code Collins, Metro Development, 470 Old Worthington Road, west of Ohio, 43002. I'm here tonight to talk about North Worthington Hotel. If you can go ahead and advance the slide one time, please. Just to give you a general area, location of this development, located on 3637, just east of Africa Road and just west of the Cabovanian Model Homes, or between the Cabovanian Model Homes and the RTDRD location, located on the south side of the street, just over 6 acres, 1 line. The development that we have before you tonight, before you all at the meeting in September. There was a number of questions and comments that we put from that meeting and applied to this plan. And I can go through those really quickly if you advance the next slide, please. So overall, we discussed one item was the trail that goes to what would be the future Sunbury Parkway or the fire lane. We actually had discussions with BST and G regarding this fire lane being used as a permanent path for the future for residents going from what would be the south property or the south development down to the future Sunbury Parkway. So that was noted not only in our site plan as a note that's addressed on there, it just simply says emergency access to Ravines and Meadow Ridge to be converted to a multi-use path connection to completion of Sunbury Parkway. The fire department confirmed that this can be used for dual access for pedestrians. One other item of discussion was with the fire department was because of this fire access, they wanted to note that there will be no parking, of course, in front of the fire access, which is the additional that says parking adjusted on per fire department direction. So that's the one note on this plan. And then further comments was to add additional trees, that would be in the farther east portion of the site that is directly behind the Cabovanian site, so the Cabovanian model homes. So we added additional trees added to what we call our buffer on north property line, which is adjacent to this area here. This box out area is actually a retaining wall where we are actually protecting an existing wetland. So this area is a wetland with a retaining wall. So we took the additional deciduous trees and spruce trees and filled them in that area as additional buffer for this northern or southern property line itself. And then the final point that we addressed was the mayor mentioned that he'd like to see some different elevations. You go to, I'm sorry, real quick, I'll go through it here first. Building 5 and building 7, or building 7 and building 5, I apologize. Building 7, of course, goes directly towards State Route 3637. And building 5 faces what would be the future Sunbury Parkway. We've added additional elevation for that frontage of that building. And I show you in further slides. You can go to the next slide. And then as part of our development, I believe as part of the staff report also, we noted 14 different variances that we were requesting as part of this development. And if there's any questions regarding those variances, we're here to answer those tonight. So if you go to the next slide, please. Just to give you an overall development pattern of this area in particular, we are already under construction of the north side of Ravines and Meadow Ridge, which is bisected by the future Sunbury Parkway, which will ultimately end up at the intersection of the new interchange along 3637. Both this development, which is the Ravines and Meadow Ridge in a whole, and then the North Fork Residential Hotel, are all contributing funds to what would be the Sunbury Parkway interchange, Sunbury Parkway itself, and additional money to the new interchange of 3637 or Sunbury Parkway and 36 or 71. I apologize.
So just to give you a little background on the funds that will be generated by just the Northport Residential Hotel for the use for this particular, these developments, which I just mentioned. So a TIF, which is a 10-year, 75% TIF on this property, will generate $3,684,000, which will be used for Sunbury purposes for the parkway itself. And then we'll also be joining an NCA, which is a NCA in the Sunbury region, which generates additional 10 mils on top of our property taxes for Northport, which is an estimated value of $2,419,234 to be used for, again, Sunbury Parkway and the future interchange at 71 and the future Sunbury Parkway. Then we also did analysis on what would be an income tax generation, which is a 30-year analysis of roughly $2,544,608, which would be generated from this development as well. So just to summarize, this development will be generating roughly $8,648,208 as a economic development tool for Sunbury, both in the TIF revenue, the NCA revenue, and of course the income tax revenue. So if you don't mind, go to the next slide. As I mentioned before, these are elevations of the buildings that you saw previously, which is this the hotel building number 1, which the end cap right here faces 3637, which is the hotel entrance to the hotel lobby. Go to the next slide, please. This is the other buildings that are buildings 2, 3, and 4 throughout the community. You go to the next slide, please. And then noted the buildings that will face both 3637 and the future Sunbury Parkway, which we call out in the previous slide of buildings 5 and building 7. We added this center panel will be all the limestone, cultured stone will be that panel will be all stone itself. And the next slide, please. This is just additional elevation, for building number 6. But I think these were all seen before in our presentation previously, but these are indoor photos of the hotel lobby area, which will have essentially a gathering area, front lobby area, computer office for the residents, gaming area, kitchen area, as well as an exercise facility. And then go to the next slide, please. And then these are interior photos of the suites. And our team here is any questions we have.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. We have the staff report.
The action being requested is approval of a rezoning application for a residential hotel along the south side of 3637, east of Africa Road, and west of 3Bs and K Road. The city of Sunbury does not currently have any zoning ordinances specifically referring to residential hotels. Research included review of Ohio Revised Code 3731.01A4, a variety of other cities' relevant zoning ordinances, and additional metro development residential hotel projects as mentioned in the preliminary hearing on September 23rd of this year. The Ohio Revised Code states a residential hotel is kept, used, maintained, advertised, operated as, or held out to the public to be a place where non-transient dwelling units are offered for pay to persons for a minimum stay of more than 30 days. After reviewing 9 different city zoning ordinances throughout Ohio and across the country, a residential hotel is typically defined as having units containing a bedroom, closet, and a bathroom that provide temporary residence for 30 days or longer with hotel services such as 24-hour staffing and security typically provided, and records and reports of guest duration of stay. Lastly, as mentioned by the applicant in the preliminary presentation, these developments are advertised alongside apartments to account for the minimum stay of 30 days that would not typically be sought out by guests searching for a hotel. Figure 3 shows the language used in the listing websites to include words such as apartments and view community.
Thank you. All right, we're going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone that was sworn in and wishes to speak with the Planning and Zoning Commission related to the Northport Residential Hotel rezoning? All right, we'll open it up to Planning and Zoning Commission comments, questions for staff or the applicant.
You mentioned that you were going to generate 2 million in income tax. How is that configured?
We did an analysis of the median income for the development. And we did a count of the number of residents that would be located in the actual Northport residential hotels. So typically the scenario is you only count roughly 60 to 70% of the residents as income producing in the city of Sunbury as far as residential users. And use that median income, which included, all the residents. And then of course, it's broken out over what would be roughly 30 years. So first year, of course, not fully occupied, roughly $44,642 in income taxes for the city of Sunbury. Once fully occupied, it generates an average income tax of roughly $89,284 per year within the actual residential hotel for Sunbury income tax. And then, of course, stretched over 30 years is what that actually income comes to $2,544,000.
I'm interested in the conflict that's going on between a hotel and being domiciled. If they're in a hotel, even though it's a long-term residence hotel, that could mean they're domiciled elsewhere. And even though they're living there, that might not be their domicile and they won't be paying taxes to the city.
So like anyone else within that particular unit, they will have an actual mailbox associated with each and every unit. They'll be registered in that particular unit as a resident in that particular unit through their residential hotel agreement. So if they stay there longer than 30 days, they'll be required to pay income tax within the city of Sunbury if they qualify for that particular portion of the income tax. Now, they may be there on short-term work assignment. If they be there for a shorter period of time, which of course, they would not be paying that total amount of income tax to the city of Sunbury, but they will be paying proportion of that income tax. So the hotel suite, as we call it, may be only occupied for 6 months for that particular person, but it'll also then be occupied additionally for 6 months by another additional person that would be paying an income tax. Now, again, not everybody who lives in Sunbury per se works in Sunbury. So a lot of those qualifications may be different on what is qualified as Sunbury income tax versus the city of Columbus, Westboro, and so on. So that's why we don't count every individual adult living in those particular units as the city of Sunbury residential income tax as part of that scenario. So that's why, like I mentioned, roughly 60% of the residents would be paying that Sunbury income tax.
What kind of attorney did you have look at what you just said?
This was this was not created by me. This was created by Bricker. But Caleb Bell was the one that created this chart as far as that analysis.
And I'm familiar with Caleb, and he's not an income tax attorney. And so I'm still going back to my question about being domiciled.
Like I said, from a standpoint of this particular list of items, that they do have a resident, which this is somewhat shape or form is considered a residence for these people. Even though it may be a shorter period of time, they're still a resident within the city of Sunbury. So
Being a resident and being domiciled are two different terms,
Right.
Just like extended stay hotel and resident hotel are. You're talking apples and oranges between being a resident and being domiciled.
well, as we look through these analysis of these numbers, these are considered people that would be living in that particular unit in that particular location. Now, as far as if they're claiming income tax or a domicile residence, somewhere else, they of course would not apply. But again, a number of people who could apply will apply and will be paying Sunbury City Sunbury income tax. So, like I said, these are estimates that are driven by an attorney that has looked at these analysis pretty clearly, knowing that it's a residential hotel, not that it's a apartment or any other type of housing. So these analyses are pretty conservative in the number as far as what they're driven on.
So if I call the tax administrator at the city of Delaware, how will they describe the residents of your residential hotel that is in their city limits?
I don't have any currently in their city limits.
You don't have any in the city limits? What about the city of Powell?
City of Powell, yes. So there is one there called Nolan Reserve, located at Seldenstein
Mm-hmm.
and Sawmill Parkway.
That's actually in the city of Powell?
In the city. It's actually Sheridan and Moreland Drive is the exact intersection, but outside of that is Seldenstein, Sawmill Parkway is the intersection.
Was it annexed into the city?
No, it's always been part of the city. But yeah, the exact name of the development is Nolan Reserve, which is Sheridan, Moreland Drive. Sheridan actually ties into Summer City. Moreland ties into Summer Parkway.
Okay.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the commission review for a conditional use application 157 South Vernon Street. By the way, thank you, Sarah. Great job. Mr. Conan Cameron, the anticipated process is a commission discussion. Looks like the applicant is not here at this point.
Outside?
No, I don't, you don't have to. I wanted to go back to, there's technically 4 courses of action the commission can take tonight on this. One is to approve with supplementary conditions or to disapprove. The 4th option is to defer to any decision to the next meeting. So I'm opening it up to the commission for discussion related to the conditional use application for 157 South Vernon Street.
My personal opinion is I think that we still have some outstanding questions and some I was looking for some clarification regarding to what the final product would look like. So I would recommend defer to next month. In the meantime, hoping to get some additional information to help clarify.
We want to get on record what we specifically want from the applicant. Because the reason I ask is we're obligated to act at our next meeting. It'll be within 2 days of the law.
And if I'm alone, that's okay too. I'm just looking, I heard a lot of great things from the applicant, but I didn't. It was hard to really nail down that this is exactly what was going to happen. It was like, I would like to do this, and at some point, this is my dream. And I totally support small business and getting off the ground and being successful. But as you've seen in other things been presented to us, we have a very formal plan that outlines exactly where a tree goes and where a lighting is going to be. And this plan was more general and more hearsay as far as what's going to be done. And I would just like to see for the residents that live around that area, I guess a little bit more formal plan on what's going to happen. So they can feel a little bit more sure, because quite honestly, I've gotten a lot of conversation about the way that looked, and it's awesome that it can be cleaned up and it's going to be better, but that's what's said, and then what's actually done and we hold accountable to are 2 different things. So that's the reason being.
Right, question about it. Maybe I'm missing out on something. He's already moved into the property and is already performing as a mechanic.
That's right.
correct?
Yep.
Was this an oversight, the rezoning on his part? I mean, I'm just trying to take this to the next decision point where we say it's not approved for this conditional use. Is he gotta vacate? Or close the business? What is?
Yes, he would not be able to operate that business out of that structure anymore if the conditional use isn't applied for. So I noticed the cars on the lot and I approached him. He was unaware that he needed a conditional use. I informed him that he did. We had discussions then, said it can operate as long as we are actively pursuing this conditional use. So that is where we've been going right now.
Okay.
So if the conditional use is not approved, he would not be allowed to operate that business on that structure anymore. If it is, then he would just be required to operate under any conditions that we associate with the conditional use if approved.
Thanks for that explanation.
The items that we discussed earlier, very specific on parking. We had hours of operation. Did we nail down hours of operation?
I think he agreed to, the 7-6, he didn't have any qualms with.
Landscape buffers and screening. I don't think we talked about the trash can enclosure.
Per our code, it would need to be screened. Yep. So I will advise him on that, but that was also in my staff recommendations, was to whatever kind of screening he goes with for the parking lot, keep it consistent with the screening for the dumpster in the front as well.
And we talked about noise. Am I missing anything? My recommendation to Mr. Cameron is be as specific as possible when he comes forward.
That is exactly what I was gonna push to him. So
yeah, listen to the YouTube video, listen to the comments of the commission, listen to the comments of folks who spoke in public.
Is there any additional items you guys want to add so I can pass this along to him?
We're gonna make a formal decision on the lot 4. Cause there was comment that he would just do it all at the same time, as far as lining and striping.
Once he did, what I have written down for lot 4 is 5 spots that would be striped by April 30th. And then there was still discussion regarding the screening to the north end of that because it was concrete, but I don't think we ever firmly set anything down as far as screening goes to the north side.
I think what would be really good for him is some examples that people that didn't have an engineer, do we have any of those that submitted plans that showed how they were gonna do their landscaping? I mean, I don't want him to get scared off with a professional look, but a little more,
In detail in the
you
drawings,
know,
yeah.
showing that here's a picture, you know, a hand-drawn picture with this kind of tree, you know, with the circle and then just writing the name, you know, something simple that he could do himself. But with measurements that show him what he needs to provide.
I think I've seen those in the BZA. I mean, the Planning and Zoning Commission used to approve those. I fence description 5 feet off of the house. In this material, here's an image.
I'll advise him on that.
And more specificity is all to his benefit. He has a lot riding on this. I'm really trying to look at this on the whole. But we need to be very specific on these conditions for many reasons.
I agree, because I think he doesn't understand the scope of what he's taking on by redoing this business that already exists. And any examples, I think would help him understand and know what we are looking for.
I'll provide some to him.
Anything else? Anything else on this? All right, so we do not need to table. This is just continuing to our next agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Whitney?
That's correct, yes, and just be continuing, any action to be continued until the next meeting, and the public will not be receiving further notice on this as far as affected property owners, because the hearing is over, so.
Right.
Anyone that's here should know that it will be next meeting when action may be taken.
And the next meeting is November 25th. That is the week of Thanksgiving. And we'll be right here at 6:30 p.m. Okay. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the commission review rezoning Woodland Lake Investors LLC. This is for commission discussion. Any comments or questions? I'd be interested to just to understand. I saw there was some discussion going on with the property owner who spoke in the back. Was there anything that cometh from those discussions? That's okay. I mean, this is fluid. You're seeking an approval. This is your third meeting here. Are you comfortable talking about what you spoke about? That was the only person who spoke really about any concerns related to the development. You want to come up to the microphone, please?
Thank you for taking time to go to one of our sites and introduce myself, give my contact information. So we find ourselves becoming good neighbors. And open it to continue the conversation. That's all.
I think you answered the majority of his questions or comments. The one that we may need to refine a little bit is just make sure that the landscape plan and the buffering against his side yard is adequate.
He's actually in the middle. He was not up against Midnight Court. His neighbor is.
Okay,
So I gave him additional cards to get to those as well. So we moved out to the.
great.
So we'll screen that road as much as possible. To get them comfortable with it.
Thank you very much. So to recap the items that changed from the previous submittals. Screening materials for the single family planned residential district portion. I said screening materials. It's a material enhancement on the west elevation. I don't have the buildings listed. I think it's 1, 2, 5, 10, and 16.
15 in there as well.
15. Thank you. 1, 2, 5, 15, 16. All right, thank you. You provided according to staff, the most detailed photometric analysis in Sunbury history. Thank you. Normally when we ask for subjective analysis, it's like it met the requirement. No, this is like, it was the best. Clarified, open space, you're taking another look at the trees. And I want to make sure we're not missing an opportunity here, nor holding up a project. If I'm not mistaken, like our tree ordinance it's the potential payment in lieu. Isn't that determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission? I mean, if we approve, do we miss an opportunity here, or is that something that?
If you want to look at that, Vic, I do believe that's an administrative review. So I believe we can approve it with the thought that the administration would negotiate that after the meeting. But I
That's
will
what the
have,
ordinance says?
I believe so, but I'm gonna have Vic look it up. He's got.
You guys are handling the money now.
I don't want to. I mean,
Sounds good. Ms. Odebrowski, can you back Mr. Blankenship up on that? Is that what we're doing?
Get back to you in just a moment.
Thank you. While they're researching that, are there any other items that you'd like to discuss related to the development? Just taking a moment.
I actually had my husband drive as close as we could get so I could see how the on-ramp and off-ramp. So I had my own answers with visual.
Yeah, I did too. Thanks for the exhibit you put together. I know that wasn't, pro bono work by your land planner or engineer, but I mean, the visual did great justice. I also looked across from Tanger Outlet Mall and realized like there's a pretty significant tree stand there. So thank you.
I'll make a comment regarding, I just wanted to point out, I guess I appreciate the informal discussions we had leading up to this one that they presented. I thought that was a helpful tool that we had to have a discussion. The one thing that I think is still missing is we received a lot of information here, a lot of good information. And the latest information didn't come with a summary document to say what changed. I don't know if we can request that in the future from applicants, that if you make changes. I know some of the documents come and they only provide the revised documents. Having a whole nother binder with 100 pages was a little daunting. Because all my notes were in the first one. I was like, oh gosh, what changed? So I don't know what we can request going forward when large changes are made to a large project. But hey, a summary document of 2 pages would be extremely helpful for the commission, I think.
That's a really good point. I think for our end of year meeting where we talk about changes for next year, I think that's a really good idea.
I want to read it all, but some of it sounds really familiar.
We're just trying to save 30 days here. And it's important.
Your Honor, you should have hold music when you do this.
Not Jeopardy.
That's
Right. And thank you everyone for being patient tonight. This is one of our lengthier Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. All right, I'm going to help out here.
Okay, so, yeah, in reading this is from the tree replacement ordinance. Should tree replacement be determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission to be inappropriate, a sum suitable to complete the required replacement or some other amount as deemed appropriate by the Sunbury Council shall be paid to the city for use by the Parks and Recreation Committee as deemed appropriate.
All right.
So
I'm going to deem it inappropriate until we have evidence stating that it's not inappropriate, and council will make the determination on the potential payment in lieu.
I think that is appropriate.
All right. Good deal. Excellent. All right, any other comments or questions on the rezoning request? All right, we're looking for action on this. We're looking for a motion.
You need a motion to talk about the trees?
I do not believe so.
I move to approve the rezoning of Woodland Lake investors as presented.
Second?
A motion and a second. Motion by Mrs. Miller, second by Mrs. Crawford. Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Grokenauer,
No.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. They'll be at city council they'll go for a public hearing and is
Should
it
be
30 days?
Yeah, first meeting in December, I would believe.
that right?
December 4th.
December 4th. All right, we'll see you December 4th. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the commission review rezoning Northport Residential Hotel Metro Development. Commission discussion. Any comments or questions from the commission? I'll make a comment. The hotel thing still confuses me, but I think I'm speaking on behalf of probably at least a couple commission members. I know Mrs. Miller has kind of spearheaded the discussion related to the questions that I think we probably all have, but wanted to start there. I really don't have any closing thoughts or opinions on it. I'm still a little bit confused on it.
So if we didn't vote tonight, what would happen?
You have 60 days for the Sunbury ordinance or the zoning ordinance to take action.
For me, I'm trying to get all my answers and my comfort level up. And I'm not quite there. I understand, there's some of it I like and some of it I don't, and I'm just trying to come to grips with the nuances of a new product. And I would prefer postponing to get more answers. So that I
Fair.
wouldn't be throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
That's fair. Is there anything we are requesting of the applicant that they can do or provide? I think you asked a lot of really good questions around income tax.
Well, I'm concerned,
And you opened the door to that, right?
Yes,
Like, that's not something that you can request.
actually was waiting for the opening
Right.
because of something else that was in their paperwork, so I was waiting for the income tax topic. I've read the code and I've looked up, and so while I wouldn't call it a residential hotel, that's what our Ohio code named it. It's really a concierge apartment, which is what everyone else's code calls it, which is fine because it offers the benefits of a hotel, but not all the nuances of a hotel, like the utilities and stuff like that. I'm concerned with the amount of administration if it is, they're going to be residents, and what it's going to put on Rita and the income tax advisor going after these people, because they're not going to be in and out. I've also looked at, I'm very familiar with the Rita tax code and what a resident is, and being domiciled and being a resident doesn't have to be the same. A perfect example is a student gets to choose almost when they go to college. So they could be domiciled at the university, or they could have chosen to be domiciled at their parents' address. And that makes a big difference on the income tax. And I just kind of want to know where that's going to lead the city of Sunbury. Are we going to be giving them a can of worms that where we say they're going to get all this money, but because of all the administration cost, you don't get any of it? It's hit and miss because people who are going to be short-term or in the residential hotels might not understand city income taxes in the state. I mean, I know lots of people who lived in the city of Columbus all the time, and because they've never had to do anything because they were residents and they worked in the city, when they moved to another city, even if it's Gahanna or Dublin, everything falls apart because they've never experienced having to file. And so I just need some more comfort level on introducing a new product to the city.
That's fair. I know we typically don't get into like finance on planning and zoning, but the number made me at least research like what does $89,000 equate to? I mean, it's like $9 million a year total, right? For the entire complex. That breaks down to $60,000 a door. I don't know if that's right or not. We don't have anything really to compare it to at this point. But anyways.
But the city of Powell is also a Rita city.
Yep.
So I was going to reach out with the finance director here in Sunbury and have her reach out to Rita and talk to them about residential hotels and the issues.
Great, thank you.
Excuse me, didn't we determine that the Four Winds property across the street is a residential hotel, but it's not in Sunbury, it's in
Berkshire Township.
It's in the
Berkshire
township.
Township? Can we get the information?
It's useless. Townships don't have income tax. That's why I was looking for the one that was further, that might be in the city of Delaware.
Are there any other items we want the applicant to research, provide more information? All right, so we do need a tabling on this item or no?
We wouldn't, provided again, the commission has 60 days from the public hearing to act, so you wouldn't necessarily need to table it.
All right, we're on to the next item on the agenda. The item on the agenda is the commission review commercial industrial edition. Ohashi USA. Anticipated process, the applicant presentation.
David Workman, it's on Auto Corporation, 500 West Bridge Road.
Can you check the light on that microphone? Is it, it's on that stuff? Is it on?
Yes.
What was your name, sir?
David Dorfman.
Nice to meet you. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Not that one, the set of architecture, the set of architectural. Your zoning submission, well, there we go, yeah, that one. So if you can go two more drawings, yeah, there to there. Oh, go down one, yeah. Oh, up, sorry, I'm sorry. There we go. So this is the existing Ohashi plant on Burr Drive. There's my thing. I guess I have to be. This is the existing Ohashi plant on Burr Drive. We're adding two new truck docks on the south side, which will be the add to these existing four truck docks. So truck docks plus truck ramp. Then here's the new production plant, approximately 20,000 square feet. This is interior renovation of existing office. And this is new scrap building. If you go to the rendering, should be in that set, or it might be separate from that set. It's probably separate from the set. I think it's on the set. No, that's
I don't mean this in a rude way, but why didn't you want to come forward and bring this as an informal presentation first?
just because we're kind of pressed for time and because we're getting machinery in. And so
I know fun of that.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Mind if I answer that?
Yeah, please come up. Go ahead.
I'm Roy Carlos, Vice President over at Hashi. I understand the normal process and I understood the request. I asked us to attempt to expedite this because I've got to be up and running November of next year. I ordered machines. I put the order in, I'll cut the PO tomorrow for the millions of dollars worth of machines that we're making. Or that we need to run this renovation. This will bring $1 million a month in sales to Ohashi and to the area. So I understood the request. We were not trying to be disrespectful. This is a big project to get done in 12 months. Nobody's fault other than our own. We were indecisive. I think when did we originally talk, Your Honor? Is that in June or earlier than that? I think May. I think the meetings I started having were in February, so.
Right.
I think I got the rest of everybody else beat. I apologize for the attempt at expedite. Anything other than I've just got to get them in. I got to get the machines in so I can make the production for Honda. These parts we're making are for the electrification project. And we've been awarded the business and I got to make the parts. So, again, I apologize for going a little bit unconventional, but, that's the intent.
No apology needed. I wanted to know. I'm just curious while we were killing time here. Would it be easier if you looked at this and they could keep on looking at that?
Yeah.
Unless you can go with what we have originally. So I had sent in a rendering.
Okay.
So if you can, so if you can go to the elevation, go down. So the existing Ohashi plant, and we can look at the pictures too. It's a split face, the two office blocks are split face block, two color banding pattern. And we're gonna continue that along, the new production facility. And then we'll finish it with, metal panel, same as existing facility. And this area will be also metal panel. You can show the picture of that.
Which elevation are we looking at there? Where are we standing when we're looking at that?
This is from Bird Drive.
Put up the whole picture again, if you would, scroll back there. I don't know who's actually doing it. Lucky you. I'm planning on doing it, I guess.
Okay.
So currently, this doesn't exist, this doesn't exist, this doesn't exist.
Right.
This is warehousing, this is manufacturing space. Because the footprint required for the additional manufacturing just shy of 21,000 square feet will occupy this space. The first thing we're after is to build this ramp over here. Because currently we're receiving for the warehousing operation is right here. So in order to get this built, I need these here because the operations will be required to operate nonstop. There will be no stopping to anything we're doing. So the very first part that we're politely asking for, can I dig this hole and cut these doors? Understanding that we can have discussions about the rest of whatever we're gonna do, but none of this can work until I dig this hole and cut these doors. Then we can keep working through the rest of this. These three doors that you see right here represented are my scrap area. I generate between 2 and 5 rollbacks of scrap every week. So again, that has to operate. So the next part of this, not as urgent as this, but close, is this area down here, and that's where my new scrap area will be. Contained oil pits, all the EPA stuff, we're good to go here, better than the one we currently have. Once we achieve these two things, then we'll start boxing this in. The current opening, if you've ever been fortunate enough to be there, the current opening here, this doorway will go away. And it'll actually face the production plant, which are all CNC machines. And a new door will be here facing whatever east. Right. And then the only other thing outside of what you're looking here, change to the building, is this dock will flip. So in order for safe run out, since we're kind of taking some of the parking lot here, for the trucks to come in, it allows them to turn in here and then back in. And it's safer for the rest of what we're doing. So that's the other part of the experience, flopping that dock. But that's like, the interior of this will be remodeled. But that can happen at any time. So that's a basic overview of the project. The expansion of the parking spaces, modification of existing. If you can give me an email, I can send you the pictures that I guess you don't have.
Yeah.
That show the current versus what it's gonna look like. But, yeah.
I think there were questions in the staff report about parking. And Jason Burrell, is our civil engineer, he can answer those questions about expanding parking and parking template. But as far as the finishes on the building, we're matching existing.
Thank you.
Complete.
Yeah, my only two questions on this, and I very much appreciate Ohashi coming in, wanting to be a city partner. You invited us in along with our county partners, I mean, months ago.
Yep.
To tour the facility. I mean, it's an amazing facility. I mean, super high tech, produces parts for all the cars you see on the road everywhere.
3 to 5 million parts a month.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the production.
Over 7. Once we get this, we'll be doing about 7 million parts a month.
It's awesome. Very proud to have you as part of our community. I only really have two questions, and I'm sure other folks do, but I mean, this is your third or fourth expansion on this site.
Yep.
Two questions. Parking, what's permanent? What's temporary? I mean, typically we aren't permitting gravel parking lots. You heard a long discussion around parking earlier.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more of a refined view. At least we know what we're looking at.
We bought a parking.
Perfect. And I'm never a fan of like overinflating parking. I mean, unused parking causes stormwater problems and it's just a waste of space, truthfully, and a waste of money.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the next thing, just stormwater detention. I mean, you're adding more roof space and more parking, I think. So are you good within those? Those are my two main items.
I think that's the man for that.
And you're an engineer, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal.
Right.
So give us the brass tacks.
So yeah, if you can get the most recent plan that we sent, it shows a modified version.
Tell me you are.
I apologize. I am Jason Harrell with Harold Stevenson, 20
Okay.
South Limestone Street, Springfield, Ohio, 45502. So this was the original layout that we did, and we submitted a revised layout Friday. But originally, you know, we showed some temporary parking here, maybe some temporary parking here while this was under construction. I don't believe that's going to be necessary with the revisions we've made to the layouts. Currently, speaking specifically to excessive parking, currently Apache has 103 employees. Under this new expansion, they're going to add another 20, so they'll need 123 spaces, 71 cars per employee. The current site, the way we counted it, has 102 spaces. With the revisions that we're proposing, we're gonna have 132. So we're gonna have enough for everybody, plus a few extra, and still get everything on site. In regards to stormwater, we're not, and this site is actually tributary to two different areas. You've got the north site that comes up here to this basin, and the south side comes down here and outlets. Nothing is changing on the south side with regards to impervious area. With the updated plan, we don't have the temporary parking here. This basin, we are proposing to dig it out deeper, provide water quality per the EPA, and basically generate some additional volume in that same area by just cleaning it up sides. We do have to do some modifications to the outlet, but there's enough volume there to make it work.
I was surprised when I drove by it yesterday and saw how deep it was. From the road, you'd never look over. It's got a lot of capacity.
Well, and the optics actually changed because there's landscaping now all down through
That's
here that screens it. So you're up 5 or 6 feet above the top of the basin. It makes the basin look bigger, but that'll never fill up with volume. So.
And where is the new permanent parking going? I'm having a hard time figuring out.
Sure.
Where are you adding the extra 30 spaces that are permanent?
A portion of it's right here. We've reconfigured all of this and added parking along here.
Okay.
And then we're also proposing in the newest exhibit that we submitted, we're going to seal coat this portion and restripe this. This doesn't need to be 60 feet wide.
Okay.
So we can get some additional parking in there.
Got it.
And then a couple of additional parking spaces up here.
Okay.
I believe 7. And I have hard copies of that revised layout. You don't have the PDF if you'd like.
I'm okay. Somebody else wants some. I did just real basic analysis like Google Earth, county auditors, flyovers, drone flyovers that I could see. I mean, the maximum number of cars I saw in the lot was 80 at any given time. So I think with the added parking, it gives you room to grow. I'm just trying to do a little bit of legwork for you here and like help you out that I think the parking's adequate.
Anticipating that first shift will max out at 90. Even with the additional 20 jobs, the first shift will max out at 90, the other 35 or so will all be second shift.
Okay. So that accounts for that overlap, so you don't have them spilling out. So.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
I'm curious if and maybe I just didn't see it in the plans, with the change in the parking, I saw a lot of lights being removed. Are those going to be replaced?
We are relocating some of those lights, and then some of those lights actually fall within the footprint of this building. So we can do wall packs up on the building to provide cut-off style fixtures in that area.
Good question. Any concerns from staff with moving forward with an approval pending legal and engineering review?
The only question I had is relating to the gravel just south of where the truck was on the right side by the parking. Okay.
That was actually riprap. We were proposing some large stone riprap area to
Okay.
kind of prevent erosion. We can saw it.
Gotcha. That is, yeah, I just didn't want it like for the trucks making that turn, any kind of extra fall.
It's not going to be parked on or maneuverability.
Okay.
It was just good rate protection.
Perfect.
Because we are sheet grading across that parking lot.
Okay.
If we get good sod in there.
Right. That was my only concern. And then in regards to parking, you guys already solved that.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns? I'll make a motion for approval pending legal and engineering.
I think we're fine with the commission giving approval contingent upon legal and engineering.
Thank you. All right, good deal. Then I will make that motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Stotterman,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
We're growing with you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
You got it, Roy. Coming back out when the expansion's done. Coming for another tour.
You're all welcome.
It's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Last item on the agenda. Besides our standard items, preliminary presentation, Kiwi Clubhouse proposed rezoning. And the anticipated process is the applicant to present. Thank you for being patient this evening. Hopefully you got some good talking points to bring home to your family members about all that goes on at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Would someone like to come up to the lectern and present?
I'm actually the general contractor. For developer.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Did you say that you're the engineer?
I'm the general.
Got it. Okay. Are you the engineer?
No,
Developer. Got it.
and owner.
All right. Hello.
Is there any specific item you want on the board or you?
No, you can just put out a. Civil drawings first. Questions for you guys, we can address, some values we address for screening, to one neighbors, probably that was concerned. I would back to next year. So on that, on that screen right there, you can hold that for a second. What we're asking is, the way this lot is proposed is for the building to be up front and the parking lot to be in the back. That's our biggest change. It's not very functional, first off, for the lot to be that way, so we're asking to put the building in the back, in the parking lot to be on the drive right behind the fire department. So, and then one of the other items that we had discussed was, we originally were coming in on Harrison. But for flow, we moved our entrance to here for a better flow. So.
This is a pretty tough site. I mean, it's small and the topography it falls off really quickly.
And it makes much more sense to do the building this way, and the use that we're using it for. This is a, and I can have Sunshine, speak on this better, but it's a drop off daycare, so it's not a, traditional daycare. So, and simply elaborate that a little bit more, so. This is our fourth freestanding one of these in town, so we have other ideas and issues that we can show you. That'd be great.
Where, can you name a couple so we can reference?
Sure.
I hadn't heard of this company.
By the 23 where the Kroger is, Pickerington, Hilliard, and that's what we have for. Hilliard, yeah.
It goes underneath the name Kiwi Clubhouse?
Kiwi Clubhouse.
Okay, thank you. Is it franchise or locally owned? You owned it and founded it?
Yeah.
Congratulations. All right, any questions from the commission? It's a tough site. You've got your work ahead of you, for sure.
Actually sets up well for our building, especially with looking at the way that we're asking to do it. I think we can, through the landscaping that we do have a landscaping plan. I think, it's on a separate, file. Where we try to address the rear of the property, so that way, trying to be in front of it, being in front of what it's a separate PDF, it's all by itself, landscaping. Yeah, it was all nice stuff. Yeah, anyway, what we've done is trying to be in front of it. If any of the neighbors have an issue, we loaded the backside with landscaping in plants. Thank you. I don't think it's on there.
Just curious, what ages does this serve?
We serve 8 weeks to 10 years.
Yeah, and Elon, one of the other items that we're going for is proposed parking is we would be by proposal and by code, we would need 24 spots, but because of the lot, we're at 20. Understanding the way this works, having 10 teachers, they're really the only ones driving. There is no one else that's parking and staying, so it's a drop off and go. Our parking lot is empty. It's absolutely, everyone, if you go by any of the parking lots, there's 7 to 10 cars max, and it's all the employees, so, right, so it's not.
Is there only one entrance?
And as far as entrance into the building or entrance into the lot?
Parking lot?
Yes, it is only one, yes.
So how do you drop off? I mean, it's not like you pull up, drop off and go.
So we're not like drop off, like they drop out of the car and the parents stay in the car. It's a pull up, and Sunshine can answer this if I don't answer it correctly, but truly, we just did the addition at Luke Center, so watching this all day, people pull into these front spots, jump out, grab their kid, grab their bag, bring it in and go. So it's truly in and out. Those locations, Lewis Center by design has 2 just because of the service road, but every one of the other centers only has 1.
And specifically because it's rolling, so it's not like at 9 o'clock, you have everybody show up. It's a continual rolling.
Yeah, I have kids I've taken to daycare for years. That's how it works. You know,
It's not a one rush.
Right.
Everybody comes.
Could you point to the outdoor activity area
Absolutely.
if there is one?
Yep, absolutely. So it's right here.
Okay.
Yep, end of the building. We do a nice aluminum rail fence. Are we doing a play structure on this one? There's a really nice play structure that's permanent. There's not a lot of things floating around or very loose. It's all turf, so we don't do mulch or anything like that.
So essentially, the only impact you're gonna have on the one resident is they're gonna be looking out of back of a building versus an empty lot.
Yeah, and the back of the building is pretty clean. So that's the photo. So this is gonna be place that was just discussed. This is our front elevation, so that's your main entrance there. Don't think we have a rear photo of the building, but the rear elevation, there are a handful of emergency exits out of the classrooms, and that's it. So there's no rear lighting, so there's really no need because there's no, you have your EM lights that are on the back door, those are, by code, but there's no building lighting, so I don't think we'll have much of an impact on the resident there behind us. So we do have a photometrics on our parking lots, if needed too, so. Not to the degree that was brought to you before.
Does it operate 24/7?
No, operation hours are.
We're 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And I think that's also, yeah.
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 Yeah, that's.
Great. Any questions? All right, hopefully we'll see you back next month.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. All right, are there any visitors here that would like to speak with the Planning and Zoning Commission? Those watching online, there's hundreds of people still in the audience. We've satisfied their needs. We're looking for a motion to approve two sets of minutes. The first one is August 26th, 2024. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes. We got a motion by Mrs. Crawford. Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Make a motion on September 23rd, 2024 minutes.
A second.
The second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
You have the zoning report, Alex?
So we had 18 new zoning certificates, 14 of which were for new builds, which puts our total to date at 161. Officially passing the total from last year with 2 months left by 6. No multi-unit or no multi-units this month, just 14 single family, which puts our total for single family at 146 units for the year, and then our total for multifamily at 120. We also had our first applicants on OpenGov submit. So Ohashi's plan is actually all submitted on OpenGov. So we have that up and running, still working through all the little details on it, but we have officially had things submitted, which is nice. And then Maria, who presented for the residential hotel, is our intern. I'm pretty sure I brought it up before, but wanted to make sure you guys can put a name to the face as well.
You never told us about her, Alex.
Hardly yet.
I've known you're here for a while. Yeah, good job. You're welcome.
And do you guys have any questions for zoning or anything you want to see in the zoning report?
I just wanted to express to Maria, don't be discouraged that there was no action taken based on your excellent staff report. Good job on the narrative. Any questions, comments on the zoning report? All right. Next item, discussion, new business, Mr. Gokenhour?
Nope.
Mr. Grumney?
No, sir.
Mrs. Miller?
No.
You got a lot of good questions. I like your questions. Mr. Crawford? Mr. Stoddard? No, sir. Whose term's up this year?
I'll get back to you on that one.
Thank you. Somebody has to be off here.
No.
And reapplying, hopefully. Thank you. Next meeting date, November 25th, 2024. And I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second by Mrs. Crawford. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yep.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,